How's my hair? Fix your hair.
How's my hair?
No, stop that. Give it a little frazzle at the front, just the front.
There's a lot of baby sick on that.
Welcome back to Seek Strength. Welcome back to a new video idea. Now, this is not our original video idea, but it is a different format than what we're usually doing. So just to introduce it a little bit, we're going to come up with a topic. Preferably you guys will come up with a topic for us to talk about. Leave it in the comments, or we'll reach out to a different method for you guys to let us know what topic you want us to talk about. And then myself and Nara are going to talk about it, whatever thoughts we've been thinking, our opinions on the topic, for 10 minutes and 10 minutes only. And from there, then we will have to nip it at 10 minutes in the bud. The reason we want to do this, change the format. We also want to give you a view of how we talk about some things. Sometimes when we talk about things, we'll be talking about it back and forth in the office. Then we come to the video, we'll have a different way of talking about that. And this gives you a different context of things, and it gives you a different light on the information. And hopefully, throughout 2023, we'll continue to bring you good quality information via this method. So no editing, just 10 minutes straight.
Straight in, no kissing. We got this idea from the Vortex Nation podcast. I don't think it was their idea first day.
No?
I think they said it wasn't their idea first day. But anyway, Jimmy and the lads over there, that's where we got the idea.
They make optics for shooting.
So what's today's topic, Gerf?
Today's topic is essentially, you see from the title that it is that starting?
It's on.
So it is what most Instagram S&C coaches get wrong, or what a lot of S&C coaches get wrong, and is not to make S&C so specific. And that's what I want to talk about today.
I think this is one of the places where a lot of people know our opinions on this. You know, it's definitely popped up in live streams before where people have been asking us about, what do you reckon about doing rows with the gi for jiu-jitsu and very specific things like that, or throwers maybe using a cable machine, the same kind of planes of motion or the same movement patterns that you'd commonly see in their sport. It's definitely one of the ones where I think social media makes it a lot worse.
Yes.
Because I think you need something that's immediately visually appealing. You know, you need the picture or video of a boxer standing there with a weight in their hands, you know, because immediately when someone sees that thumbnail, they see that weight in their hands, they see the boxer interacting with a coach, and then they're like, oh, that's my sport, or that's the sport I'm interested in. And now suddenly that S&C coach has a hook or has a grab on you, and you can come in and watch it. I think S&C or Instagram and just social networks in general have made that problem an awful lot worse.
It is definitely something that's very catchy for people to do on social media. You know, there's a person, right? So I actually made a joke in one of the live streams where I made up a name for an Instagram handle, and someone tagged me in that, and it has hundreds of thousands of followers. And you've actually seen them. Maybe I subconsciously remembered it, but I didn't know. I genuinely wasn't calling out this person because there's a load of them out there, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very easy, you know. You'll have things. I generally saw this person on his Instagram. So they had their feet propped up in a box. They were lying laterally, so they're as a side plank. But this is for archers, so they were doing something like holding a ring in one hand and then pulling on a resistance band. Now, why would that even be sport specific? You know, why would that even be a thing that they are doing for an archer? Like, why being prone? Why would a ring?
The way of supporting your body weight there, where it's just coming down through one leg, or even if it's two legs on the box. You're not, you don't load a bow by leaning back into it like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's very, very strange. I think for me, anytime so obviously we coach a lot of athletes one-to-one where we have a lot of interaction with those athletes. Anytime the sport-specific thing comes up, it's always a trade-off. So it's, do we have enough time to do it? Do we have enough recovery capital to do it? Is it going to be a risk of injury whereby, if someone wants to do something tiny, right? So the example I always come back to is rugby players in the gym might have a basketball hoop at the far end of the gym, and in between sets the hooker will just be throwing line out throws to that, right? You're in an S&C context, a lot of people will see that video, or they'll see the All Black scrum half, and in between sets he's bouncing a rugby ball and doing a pass off it, or he might just be simulating a pass, and they're saying, oh, that's practicing under fatigue, you know. In my opinion, the cost-benefit analysis works out there. So they're in the gym. They're not really negatively affecting anything. They're resting in between sets anyway. They can do their throws. It's not going to hold them back from the next set. But that's an example where specific work in an S&C context can be beneficial, although it's not an overly weighted ball or implement or anything like that.
So there's two things that you bring up, and you kind of mention that. So there's the one that there is doing sport specific stuff in the gym will actually negatively impact your sport. So that would be the case of using a weighted baseball bat, a weighted hurley, a weighted racket, or it'll be using weighted punches or resisted punches. You see people using cable crossover and doing weighted punches, and it's very definitively negative for your punching speed. The other then is, so that's kind of the negative side of things. And then the other one where it's probably not just going to make that much of a difference. So in that case where Dara's talking about pro rugby players, some of the best in the world, not the best one, because obviously Ireland are better than the All Blacks we've beaten recently, but when it comes to them throwing a line out, or the hooker throwing in a ball to the baseball net, the basketball net, he's played so much rugby, he's done so much rugby throughout his life, he's thrown so many of those exact throws that realistically he's built up such a well of that it's just not going to negatively affect it. So in that case, it doesn't really matter. It's not great, but it doesn't make a huge difference. Where you really see the issue is when you go to things like you've got a boxer doing weighted punches. So you've got things like altering the specific technique of that punch, for example. So you're going to be changing the motor pattern very slightly, but when you're a pro athlete, that's very important. You're only changing the speed. So we know from speed training or plyometric training, we're either looking at a couple of different ways of training the actual speed and getting better speed. The most important thing is if you want to move fast, you need to be doing your movements fast. And so doing a weighted punch is going to be slower than your weighted movement, so you're not training speed in that aspect. We have facilitated speed. So facilitated speed is when you might do jumps, but you might actually have your hands on a resistance band hanging from a pull-up bar, and you will jump and it will assist you. So we have an increase in speed via the assistance of the jump, and it's actually beneficial for speed training. Then there is some evidence, and it's not clear where this is going yet, but it is interesting, and there's accommodating resistance. So accommodating resistance would be the use of the band in the opposite direction. So you'd be jumping against the band, you might be using weighted implements, you might be holding dumbbells, trap bar deadlifts, probably the only use for a trap bar deadlift is doing weighted jumps with them. The interesting of that is that you reduce the power output, but you increase your ground reactive forces, and so some cases that might be useful, But when it comes to that sport-specific activity, if you're doing your sport-specific activity and reducing the speed, like the punch, you're getting negative outcomes, very definitive negative outcomes.
Yeah.
They might not be meaningful, but they're certainly moving the dial ever so slightly backwards, I think.
Yeah. I've definitely had it before where the sports coach, right, so the person who's dictating how their sport will be played, how the skill will be carried out, has approached me or us as an S&C coach and said, here's one or two weak areas, right? So if you imagine with a rower, rowers are pulling as hard as they possibly can, putting as much power into the rowing machine, whether it's on an erg or whether it's on the water, as possible. When a coach highlights one or two areas there, immediately for an S&C coach, you can be like, okay, we can do something really specific, or you can do something that's going to be really effective. So if their upper back is breaking down at the shortest part of their stroke, just as they're recycling again, if it's their upper back is breaking down, you could certainly do something like put them on a rowing erg, get them to do very short, sharp rows with very high resistance. That would be the specific example. In the case of most S&C coaches, the more intelligent decision to make there will be, okay, some upper back hypertrophy work, maybe some upper back isometric work, actually improve their ability to maintain the posture, and then when they go to do that specific skill, they're an awful lot better off.
Will I tell everyone that the most important part of being an S&C coach, the fundamental principle to S&C work?
Tell them the secret, Garth.
So S&C is general, sport-specific work is specific. So when you're in the gym, and like in that scenario, the rowing coach might go to Dara, or the athlete Dara coaches will say, look, my coach said my posture is really bad. He said my back isn't strong enough. Now Dara doesn't then get a row or a concept tour and put weights on the handle and try and make it heavier in that regard. He goes, what is the most effective way that I can make this athlete's upper back stronger? So it's not weighted concept 2 rows, it's probably dumbbell rows, it's probably barbell rows. It's what will I get the most bang for my buck. And then these very talented athletes will then transfer this general ability that we've discovered, this increased force production, they'll funnel it into their sport specific activity. That is like that's how you should think about S&C. If you're S&C for any sport, just think about what is the most important aspects and what parts of the body and what kind of modalities does this athlete need for their sport. Is it core? Is it resistance to rotation? Is it strong upper body? Is it explosive legs? Whatever it is, you take those concepts and think, what are the best ways in the gym that I can overemphasize this value? How can I talk about it a lot, and there thinks it's funny. If you think of the athlete like a video game character in a role-playing game or RPG, and you look at their stats and their value, and you think, how can I farm experience for this particular value? Is their force production is very low? Let's say they are a highly skilled jiu-jitsu athlete in a weight class, and they're noticeably weaker than the other athletes in their weight class. Their strength is very low, but their skill is high, their flexibility is high, speed, conditioning is all high, but their strength is noticeably lower than the other athletes in their class. In that scenario, we wouldn't go, let's get heavier sparring partners. No, absolutely not. You'd go, okay, his bench press is below body weight, his back squat is barely body weight, and you just up those attributes very simply because it's safe, it's effective, it's repeatable, it's easily increased, it's very easy to implement. There's so many different reasons to do that, you know?
Yeah. My last 2 points on this are, I think it's at the detriment of most
36 seconds.
Oh my God. It's at the detriment of most coaches where they want to be unique and they want to find something where they're doing this different with their athletes. You especially see it in combat sports because we tend to have isolated camps from place to place, and this person does this differently, this person does this differently. Most of the time you want to do what will work for everybody, and we basically know what works for everybody. And yeah, you can finish it off, Gareth.
I'm just going to say, in real life, a lot of coaches aren't as bad as Instagram. They're not as bad. Every year coaches get better, and we see a lot of in-person coaches do a very good job. Pretty good, yeah. Oh my god,
that's so aggressive.
So I really enjoyed that. So if you have any topics, literally anything, combat sports, normal sports, non-combat sports, weightlifting, powerlifting, CrossFit, conditioning, any topic at all, throw it out there. We'll try and look at them as late as possible before we record the next one of these, so we've got the most kind of honest thoughts, or least curated thoughts.
I'd also love to know if anybody's watched the 10 minutes talk on our 10 minute talks on the Vortex Nation podcast.
I have to imagine.
I want to see how many of those Venn diagrams overlap.
This is how far apart the Venn diagrams
I'd say it's just me in there on my own.
I'd say it is. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.